In order to install Windows Server Update Services, you first need to add a couple of applications to your machine. First of all, you need to add the application server and the default options that it comes with. Second, you need to add the IIS, the built-in web server, with some additional components like ASP.NET, Windows authentication, dynamic content compression, and IIS-6 management compatibility. Now in the bottom of this Select Role Services rules wizard, you can also select the Windows Server Update Services, but it is not possible to install all of these components at once. So you will need to first install these components, and then second install the WSUS server itself. Now WSUS or Windows Server Update Services will help you keep your clients and servers, if you wish, updated with security patches from Microsoft. It is mostly for the operating system patches, but it also supports all of the Microsoft applications as well. But don't get fooled. It doesn't support other applications as well. It doesn't make sure your Java, for instance, is updated, or your Adobe Reader or applications like that. So you really have to have a system in place for your applications as well. Now you can see here I've installed the first set of components, and now the Windows Server Update Services is being installed. The application doesn't come on the server itself. You need to, the role wizard is downloading the update from the Microsoft homepage. You can also download it yourself, also in case you're not running Windows 2008 like this server here, and apply it that way. Also, you will need to download the application from the Microsoft homepage in case you want to have a console on a desktop machine. Here there's a warning about a required component called Microsoft Reportviewer 2008. There's also a 2010 version. Don't select that; it will not work. It's the tool that allows you to see the and generate, for that matter, the reports inside WSUS that you can save and save for your compliance team or any revision that you might undergo. Now there was a question here about where to install the updates, and I deselected that. That is because this is first of all, it's a test installation. There's not going to be many clients on it, so there's really no point to the server itself downloading the updates. If you have multiple clients, multiple servers that's going to download the updates, you can have the server download them once and the client download them from your server, that's saving bandwidth. But in this case, I just disabled it because it's going to slow things down a little bit. So here the installation of Windows Server Update Services is being performed. And a default database is also being used here. You can use SQL Server if you want, but in case you have a lot of clients, I would just use the internal one. It works fine for thousands of clients. When we're finished here with the installation, we're going to do an update. First of all, there's a small questionnaire on how to connect to Microsoft to download the updates, and second, we are just going to update some of the components For Windows Server Update Services, there's a very important update. It was an update that was released during the detection of the Flame malware, and it changes the way that Windows Server Update Services connect to Microsoft. So it's quite important to get that one on your server. Otherwise, it won't work. There's also an update for the database server and one for .NET. So now WSUS is installed. It only took around 5 minutes or so. And we can continue with the wizard. Now here you can choose. This is we only have this one server, so it'll synchronize directly with Microsoft. If you have multiple servers, perhaps you want them to synchronize to each other and only one of them to Microsoft. Here you ask the WSUS to download a list of applications, operating systems, etc. that it actually supports. And it takes a few seconds here. You'll get a very long list of services, applications that it can bring updates to. You can see here that you really should go through this list and make a note of whatever you actually have in the Office. By default, the operating systems have been chosen, so we'll just accept the defaults here. Be careful what you select here, because now I'll select all of it, but if you have for instance, if you have selected all of the applications and all of these classifications, you could end up having, for instance, Skype installed on all of your desktop machines. So be careful what you choose to install. This was the synchronization schedule. It will schedule a replication with Microsoft at 7 o'clock each morning. And now it's finished here. So let's update the server, and well, we should also make sure that we have Reportviewer installed here. The Reportviewer was the tool to create and view the reports, and it only takes a few seconds here, as you could see. It's a free download from the Microsoft homepage. And of course we should run here the Windows update. And as you can see, there's a update for Windows Server Update Services and for the internal database and .NET. So we'll just have a go at those, and it'll take a few minutes. And the server will require a reboot afterwards. And we just reboot the machine now. This is a virtual server, so it'll only take a second. Now here you can see the Windows Server Update Services console. We can see here that there's no computers connected to it, and we can go to the options and go through a couple of the updates. This is the settings we chose before, where we had the possibility to set up a proxy server, for instance. This is where we selected what products we want updates for. And as you can see, the operating systems, as well as the Office pack was up there earlier, is selected by default. This was the option about where to store the files, and my clients will download them directly from Microsoft instead. We also have here the synchronization schedule. And since I will not bother to approve all of the updates, then I will just have the WSUS server automatically approve the updates. If you have if you want a little control, it's a bad option to set, because you will just get all of it approved automatically. You can set up a program where you have people actually testing these updates first. If you have a company that's of a reasonable size. As this is a test, then we just enable auto update. So I have selected that the workstation should automatically be put into groups, and that will require me to set up a GPO to assign the group name. And as you can see here, I just created a group called ITSC_workstations. So I've switched here to my domain controller, and I will be creating a GPO to set up the WSUS settings to make my clients automatically update against the correct server instead of Microsoft's servers. So we open the new and empty GPO here and go to Policies and Administrative Templates and Windows Components, and below here we have Windows Update, and in here you have all of the WSUS settings you can apply to it. Not all of them is needed, but I recommend that you go through all of them and think about how to set them up so it functions within your defined security. Some people want it just to force updates to all of the clients, and where the clients really shouldn't be asked if they want these updates. Some perhaps want it to be optional for the clients. I personally believe that it should be forced upon them, since a recent study by Skype revealed that approximately 40% of adults do not update their computers with patches for applications and updates in general. Now here is where we define the name of the WSUS server. This is where the client should connect instead of the Microsoft default servers. Now this is a test, so I will enable that the clients should check once an hour to my machine. You really shouldn't mess with this option. Usually 22 hours is a perfectly reasonable default. But go through all of these options yourself and make sure that you have them set up correctly to satisfy your security policy and the requirements perhaps by external auditors, etc., etc. The most important one here is the client-side targeting in the bottom, where I define the group. This is the group I created before in the console called ITSC_workstation, and you can see it's a second one from the bottom. We'll put that in a second. The name is quite important. You really have to be careful about the spelling, and I even think it's case sensitive. So make sure you spelled it exactly the same on the server and inside the GPO. You can also hardcode these options in registry if you want to. There's a good explanation on how to do that in the operating guide of WSUS. Now. Here we assigned the new GPO to the secure workstations OU, where I have a couple of workstations attached to it. So now my workstations should get the new settings. So we can change here to a Windows 7 workstation and open up a command prompt. Since I will be applying these configuration changes, and make sure they're applied very fast here with the gp update command, then I will need to run it as an administrator. This is not needed per se, it's just to speed things up, and we can see that it actually works by using the gp result command. If we go up in the list here, we can see that under applied group policy objects, we can see that the group policy has been applied to the machine. Now we know it should work. And this command here is it tells the WSUS Windows Update client on the local machine to do an update against the server. You will not get any feedback from the command, but it usually works. So now we've changed back to the WSUS server, and you can see here that we have a client in there, and you can also see here we can draw a report on it. There's not much information in it, and that's because the Windows Server Update Services hasn't really downloaded any information about updates yet. So we go to synchronizations, and then we asked it to run a synchronization against Microsoft and download information. If you notice here, it will download for Windows 7, it'll download approximately 26,000 updates or information about these updates. And the next time the client synchronizes, it will have information about these updates and make sure that it selects the ones it will need. I have clipped a little bit in the video here. I've edited out the download time. It took almost 2 hours to do this synchronization, and in that time your clients will not receive updates from the machine. So be patient. And you can see here that the client have returned and said, well, I have information about at least 87% of these updates, and actually it has information about it all, but it will go and update if it needs anything. And of course now we can document that the updates are installed by running all of the various wizards that comes with WSUS, or report wizards. Here we can just make sure that all of the updates have been approved. It should be approved, and hopefully it will not show any new approved rules now. So now we can take a status report on the machine, and we can actually go in and see what updates are missing on it, what it has installed, what's needed, if anything has failed, information like this. And you can do that for entire group of machines or just single machines. And of course you can save these reports, so if you get into an audit at some point, you have documentation for how you handled the client security for back in time, instead of just having a picture of how it happened right now. Auditors will absolutely love these reports, and it will show you are in complete control over your patching of the machines. Now this is actually just a report of one machine, and it takes a fairly long time to generate. It will take even longer if you generate reports for hundreds or thousands of machines. So you really need to be patient and just let it finish, because it's usually a database issue. You can of course put your database on faster drives, and this is running on in a small virtual machine, so that's that's the reason why it isn't very fast. And you can see here the machine in question don't really need any updates. Which is a good thing. And we can see here, now I selected the no status, because the updates it says it doesn't need. It could also be because it just hasn't reported any status on these updates. And you can see here there's definitely updates that it hasn't reported as being installed or not applicable yet. So the client will do this, and it'll report back, and within approximately 1 hour or so, it will report back the next time, and the report will be more complete and more accurate. You can see here there's a lot of drivers, for instance, it hasn't reported any status on, if it needed or not. But it'll do that in due time. Now this is a very rough installation of Windows Server Update Services, but it shows you that you can get up and running in a fairly decent amount of time, and we haven't even spent half an hour here, not calculating the download time.